So here's the deal. If there is one thing I've learned on my journey on Instagram, it is that an alarming number of people do not like how they spend their time on these apps. And I'm sorry to get so ridiculously deep in the first 30 seconds of this, but especially if you're someone who has a complicated relationship with productivity and procrastination, let's unpack this for a second. We are probably defining our happiness based on something we do not have yet, something we haven't obtained. I think we can all accept that we do this to some degree. Your brain is saying, if I don't get this homework assignment done, if I don't get this task done, if I'm not successful, if I'm not in this relationship, if I'm not with this person doing these things, I'm not happy. I don't think it serves us in the least, and maybe some people would disagree with me on that, but your happiness and well-being doesn't need to depend on anything, especially not concepts like productivity or relationships or success. And that's not to say you can't strive for success or have literally whatever material thing you want in life, but why let your happiness, your appreciation for just being, depend on something else outside of you? I think a lot of people would argue it's that level of suffering that brings about change in your life wherever you're trying to get it. But for what at that point? Just to fall back into the same pattern eventually after a couple days, a couple weeks, however long, and experience that same depression again because all you're focused on is the end result? I just don't see how that's worth it. It's not sustainable either. And I feel like I'm a pretty good example of this. I'm constantly striving to reach the next level of success in all areas of my life, except now the difference is I don't hate myself for not being there yet. I'm just thankful and happy in the process of getting there. If you want to unlearn this trait and start to take back control of that mental state, go read Awareness by Anthony de Mello. I'm not even going to say anymore. It's just such a good book, regardless of whether you're religious or not, by the way, because it's written by an Indian priest. But I'm not religious, and I love that book. Honestly, I will probably look back at that book 20 years from now and think, if there was one thing I read that actually changed my life for the better, it would be that. I think it's a really brilliant wake-up call, especially for people my age. So the honest truth is, like, everyone 25 and under, I feel like, should read that book if they are concepts that they're not familiar with already. So now that we can take a breath and forgive ourselves for being imperfect, because we always will be, let's break this down. I think there are two groups of people on social media, and how you can get it to benefit you is going to be based on which group you fall under. The first group are the casual users. You're literally just here because your friends and family are. You probably watch memes on the side, which is cool. And despite so many people being in this category, I think the fix is pretty straightforward. Here's the reality. There's nothing wrong with memes or messaging people or whatever else you're doing on Instagram, let's say. We all know how quickly that can become a big problem, though, when you are neglecting life outside of it. When we no longer have control over when we open the app or how long we stay, because it is so deeply embedded in our own identity and social culture. I dedicate an entire half hour to this conversation in my documentary podcast, The Social Pulse. So if you are a podcast person, if you're a documentary person, or if you just want to learn more about some of the issues with social media and AI, I would highly recommend listening. I'll leave a link below. I think there are two things here, though, as far as balancing your social media use, and that is your environment and how much you value the other areas of your life. I'm going to start with environment because it is a simple change that you could implement immediately. If your phone is always with you, always within arm's reach, facing up, you've already lost. You are fighting your own biological chemical addiction and you will lose. And I know this is true for me. Like, whenever I'm diving into work or honestly even play, just like hanging out with people, whatever the case is, there's always a point in time where my attention starts to fade and I just say, whatever. And I just go on social media or go on my phone or whatever it is, but only if it's near me. If it's in another room, I'll scan around and for a second realize I am literally just trying to cope with my own lack of discipline and then usually refocus on what I'm doing. I would highly recommend pairing this technique with consistent chunks of work and consistent breaks, so that way for a short period of time you can get into a bit of a flow state and work on what's important to you and not have to remove the device from your life completely, because let's be real, we probably aren't there yet. And honestly, I don't know if that's the end goal necessarily, to get rid of it completely, because it has its benefits. And when you use it with intention, when you get to the point where you want to be using it with a greater intention, it will serve you. But I think a lot of people just aren't quite there yet, or they don't fall under the other category. The other thing is a bit more theoretical, but just as impactful, and that is how much you value the other areas of your life. Let me tell you guys something. I have wanted to build an online community since I was like 12 years old, okay? It has been a decade of me wanting to do the thing I have finally accomplished. And the honest truth is, I was never able to stick with it until I found a much deeper, more important reason for me doing it other than just to do it. There is a new level of passion and purpose behind every single video I make in the course of growing a community. I can't fathom not doing that at this point. So to scroll aimlessly or to play video games or to do anything in the day before that gets done is just simply not an option at this point. Fill in the blank for yourself. It could be getting consistent at the gym. It could be giving your education the attention it deserves. If your only reason for doing that thing is just because you're telling yourself, I should probably do this, it's just not going to stick. There's too many distractions. There needs to be a deeper why behind it. Now, there's a second group of people here, and if you aren't one of them now, you may become one in the near future. And the honest truth is, it is an incredibly magnetic trait. The people who want to build. The people who want to have an impact on the world, to share things and to grow from that. Often this starts offline with a business or with an art piece or honestly just an ideology. But quickly, over time, just because of the way the world spins, you will probably reach a point where you want to take it online and start to attract other people. And this is one of the great gifts of social media. If you actually use it with intention, with the purpose of building something that will not only support you, but the people who are a part of it, good things will come of that. And here's the reality. People with a purpose are attractive. And I'm not just talking about dating. Like, if you define what you stand for, everyone you connect with from that point on, everyone in your circle is going to recognize you as that person and start to connect dots between things they see in the outside world and you. For example, whenever someone I know sees anything about social media or AI or productivity, they usually think of me and send it to me. Like, honestly, this is really a step beyond just building a community, because if anything, the community aspect is just a byproduct of you being focused. This is how you develop respect, authority, influence, whatever you want to call it. This is where it comes from. And it all starts with you getting clear on what you stand for and ends with people loving you for it. And social media is just a platform and a catalyst for this. But the reality is you could do this offline and start to reap benefits from it just in your personal life. Take whatever amount of overthinking you do, because overthinkers make the best writers. I'm convinced of this. Create a private Twitter feed in your phone. Write a private blog. Write for your own clarity, but write to an imaginary audience. Articulating your thoughts, no matter how messy or incoherent they are, or how bad of a writer you think you are, leads to clarity. And clarity leads to realizations. And realizations build your character and purpose, thus attracting everyone to what you are doing. And this, seriously, is such a magnetic trait. Whether or not you take it online and try to build something on like Instagram, let's say. It's honestly stupid how much of a cheat code this is. And the funny thing is, when I first started out, my goal wasn't necessarily to build a community. I had kind of given up on that dream because I'd been doing it or trying to do it for so long that it just wasn't working. I had 900 followers at the time, and I was just thinking, what can I make for these 900 people that I know is relevant to them and will help them? A lot of them were friends and family, people I knew in real life. And something much bigger came of that. And as stupid as it sounds, when you have a giant number next to your name, people want to connect with you. Like, it sounds so straightforward, but I think people really underestimate it. When you have a large number next to your name and your profile is full of ideas and videos that back up the fact that you are someone worth connecting with, naturally, you start to connect with some pretty awesome people. And who knows, if you're proactive about those relationships, you just never know what is going to come up from that, whether it's opportunities or collaborations or just fantastic conversations, which is a lot of what I've been having lately. I would encourage anyone, any of the entrepreneur types, any artists, anyone trying to build something, to do this right now. Not tomorrow. It's too simple to put off, especially because the way most people use these apps nowadays is for entertainment, to kind of just dissociate from their own life, which is fine, but there's no return on investment there. And this is the time that makes up your life we're talking about here. Like, I've talked about this a million times, but the average person has spent 5 months on social media over the past 4 years. 5 months. And for what? Like, what in that 5 months actually served them? Why not use however many hours a day you spend on Instagram or whatever app it is to build something that is going to serve you and get you closer to your goals? And all you have to do is communicate your ideas to people. Just brain dump something for like 10 minutes. Like you just never know what is going to come of that. And that's how I have built a community of 300,000 people at this point, is if I have an idea, I write about it. If I don't, I talk until I find an idea to write about. I will transcribe literal recordings of me talking into text to then reiterate on and turn into a compact idea for Instagram, whether that's in writing or in video form. And I just do that every single day. And that's how I've gotten here. Chat up an idea, get it in writing, edit it, and then form it in a way that is appealing to a complete stranger. That is how it's done. This is something I believe in more and more every single day, and I've built an entire course around it. If you want it, I break down the entire methodology behind everything I do, and it's $30. It's there if you want it. I have one last point I want to make that I would amplify to the entire world if I could. AI is coming, and it's coming fast. There are a lot of technological innovations happening, and they are happening every single day. Like, things are developing at a tremendous rate, and social media has revolutionized the way we communicate. And all of these things are going to trample the people who do not learn how to use them in a way that benefits them. Practice self-awareness. I beg you. If you don't want to buy the course, fine. But like, go read more books, listen to more podcasts, watch more videos that actually connect with you and give you some kind of insight into what steps you can take to get to where you want to be. Because when you can do that on a daily basis and make even something small out of it, that's how you start to build this magnetic machine that starts to bring in opportunities and conversations and a hell of a lot of clarity. Get out of here.